Okay, Haldun, please.
Thank you for your insights. Just follow up for Mr. Toshikawa about the cabinet reshuffle. Last cabinet reshuffle was kind of very bad and embarrassing for Mr. Abe. And do you think now, in general, he will be more careful in selecting his ministers, like maybe running a national check-up on SM Club who attended or who did not attend? And second question for Mr. Chuck. Mr. Abe was visiting, he visited over 50 countries, so this was unusual so far. So why do you think he's doing this kind of diplomatic visits, except of course Korea and China? So do you think he has some special goal, and do you expect him to continue this diplomatic mileage plus program? Thank you.
ですね、先ほど1月8日から15日に総理大臣の日程が空白になっているというふうに申し上げました。その時、ロシアと北朝鮮についての可能性を言及しましたが、実は今言われた通りにですね、韓国が残ってるんですよね。日中韓3カ国首脳会議というのはアニュアリーでずっと行われてきたのが、この1年8ヶ月ぐらいですか、実現できていないんですね。安倍さんはもともと非常に、個人的に韓国のパク・クネ大統領に対して、非常にネガティブな思いを持っておられてですね、自分の方からアクションを起こして日韓関係を修正する、改善するという意欲がなかったんですね。しかしながらさっきのAPEC会議での日中首脳会談がたとえ短時間にせよ実現したということで、今度は中国側からですね、韓国から、要請を受けたかどうか確認できませんが、日中韓3カ国首脳会談を可能な限り早くやろうということが、先にですね、谷地翔太郎国際安全保障局長兼内閣特別顧問と秋葉剛男国際法局長が、安倍習近平会談実現の直前に北京で中国側と、共同4つの合意アグリメントを作りました。その文言協議でやってる際に、中国側の現在国務院、副首相級の楊潔チからですね、谷地さんはそのような要請を内々に受けている事実があります。したがってですね、日中韓首脳会談という形による、残された、2つプラス1、つまり3つですが、安倍さんにとっては安倍外交の仕上げ、当面の仕上げとして、近い時期にある。1月の先ほど言った空白の時期は、ロシアか北朝鮮だと思いますが、早ければ1月23日の召集前にですね、チェジュ島あたりで日韓首脳会談ということも、日中韓3カ国首脳会談を前提として実現する可能性はあります。
I mentioned earlier that there is this empty period in Prime Minister Abe's schedule from January 8th to 15th of next year. As I mentioned earlier, I believe that there will be a surprise development that will concern probably Russia or North Korea. The possibility there is very, very high. However, as you mentioned as part of your question, Prime Minister Abe has not been able to have any real relationship with South Korea. That is a big item that is left in his foreign policy. Until the past 1 year and 8 months, it used to be that the leaders of China, South Korea, and Japan would meet at least once a year, a three-country summit, and that has not been held for the last year and 8 months. Prime Minister Abe has very personal, strong feelings regarding Ms. Park in South Korea, and because of his very negative feelings towards her, he is very reluctant to initiate any action on his part to try to bring a rapprochement or to try to again bring some kind of a new development to that relationship. However, the fact is that Japan and China was able to have a summit meeting earlier this year. It was a very, very short summit meeting, but it was at least a summit meeting. And as a result, of course, we cannot confirm if China has therefore put some kind of pressure or some encouragement towards South Korea or not. However, there seems to be a movement afoot behind the scenes for the three countries together to have some kind of a summit meeting. There have been some indications in this regard. Mr. Yachi, who is the person in charge of international security affairs and is also an aide to Prime Minister Abe, and Mr. Akiba, who is in charge of international legal affairs or laws. These were the two people who went to China in advance of the Japan-China brief summit. And they put together with their Chinese counterparts a 4-point agreement, 4 things that they agreed upon in advance. And during this negotiation for this 4-point agreement document, Mr. Yachi was approached by a member of the State Council in China, Yang Kechi, who was the foreign minister, foreign minister, of China, about somehow putting together, if not a direct summit meeting between South Korea and Japan, a 3-country summit meeting, and therefore that would allow Prime Minister Abe to resolve this one last remaining piece of his foreign policy efforts. So, as again, I mentioned, in January 18th to 15th period, I think there'll be something developing between Japan and Russia, or Japan and North Korea. However, before the plenary session of the Diet is called on January 23, just before that, perhaps, there might be some kind of a meeting, maybe on Jeju Island, that would involve the leaders of the 2 countries, with the understanding that this would be, a forerunner or something that would be before an actual 3-country summit meeting.
In answer to your first question, which has to do with the makeup of the cabinet, Mr. Abe has a very short window in which to work. We have the election on December the 14th and basically the announcement on Christmas Day. He's only got 10 days in that regard. Of course, there are people whom he must be looking at already, or who have been already vetted. Nevertheless, he has a very delicate balance. If no one is changed, then this election for nothing really looks like an election for nothing. But any extra person that you add in, of course, carries with him or her the possibility that he or she is a time bomb in terms of political funding. The rules are very complex, and it's very easy to violate them, as Minister Matsushima found out with her fans. You can go too far without really appearing to have really done anything very bad. Now, in terms of this rapprochement, possibly with South Korea, everything depends on securing that meeting, I think. If no meeting is secured, we have coming up on the 26th of December, the 1-year anniversary of his visit to Yasukuni. And Mr. Abe is still himself, and psychologically, I believe his visits to Yasukuni are very supportive of his balance, psychologically, and his sense of self. And to think that Hagiuga Koichi is basically his second brain, was wrong a few weeks back when he said, I think that Abe is going to Yasukuni this year, is a big bet. And of course, if he goes to Yasukuni, he will have to live with the consequences, and Japan will have to live with the consequences. Of course, he can always say, you saw how well Xi Jinping received me, so I really didn't sacrifice very much. And there's a good argument there. The retreatment, many analysts see that the Chinese saw the entire meeting as demeaning to Japan and demeaning to Mr. Abe, and he deserved it. Well, he can return the favor. Finally, in terms of visiting 50 countries quickly, one, it shows that Japan is back on the world scene, which he really desperately wants to establish that as a concept. 2, it shows that he's healthy and can keep up an absolutely manic schedule that no prime minister previously. Koizumi was the previous record holder, and he did it over 5 years. Abe's done it in a year and a half, beaten that record. And finally, this is fading now that we're getting farther and farther away from 2012, but he definitely wanted to create the impression that he was very different from the DPJ prime ministers, particularly Khan. Of course, he couldn't go anywhere because he was dealing with the immediate after effects of 3/11, but Noda basically never left the country and only went outside the country for international conferences. Did not do bilaterals at all. The Abe administration really clearly wanted to establish we're involved with the outside world. We're not stuck in Tokyo. We're not prisoners of our political program. Things will happen domestically, fine. We have an international representative role.